to Deep Sleep Stories. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep, a short review, comment, or sharing the podcast with someone who might benefit is a simple and meaningful way to support the show so that we may continue to offer it for free. Now, take a slow, gentle breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. As you settle in for the night, this gentle tale will carry you to Rosehill Inn, where a quiet box of forgotten love letters waits to be found beneath the whispering eaves. For now, there is nothing you need to do. Let the day fall behind you like a coat slipping from your shoulders. All the conversations, all the tasks, all the little worries can rest for a while. If it feels comfortable, allow your eyes to soften or close and let your body become just a little heavier, fully supported where you are. Take a slow, easy breath in, as if you are breathing in the scent of soft roses after rain, and then breathe out a gentle sigh, letting go of anything that does not belong to this quiet moment. Again, breathe in, imagining a hillside at dusk with an old inn glowing with warm lamplight. And breathe out, letting your thoughts drift away like leaves on a slow, clear stream. You are safe here. You are allowed to rest. Nothing is expected of you. In your mind's eye, you begin to see the setting of tonight's story. On a hill above a small town, a winding path climbs through bushes of fragrant roses. At the top stands a rambling inn of pale stone and weathered wood, its windows shining softly in the deepening blue of evening. If you like, picture yourself standing on the path that leads up to the door. Feel the steady stone beneath your feet, the cool brush of moss at the edges, the hush of twilight gathering around you. The sky is a velvety indigo, and the first stars blink awake with slow, patient light. A gentle breeze moves through the rose bushes, carrying the faint scent of petals and old wood, and perhaps the lightest trace of the distant sea. With every breath, you take in that calm. With every exhale, a little more of your body softens, loosening without effort. The world of your day drifts further away, as if seen from the window of a train moving slowly into night. Ahead of you, a quieter world waits, where time moves gently and memories feel like music. In your imagination, the oak door of the inn swings open. Warmth spills out, along with the murmur of quiet voices and the comforting creak of old floorboards. You step inside or simply rest at the threshold, knowing the story will unfold around you. And now, as your body continues to relax, the tale begins to tell itself. On the hill above the town, where roses clung to stone walls and reached up toward the sky, stood Rosehill Inn, an old and kindly place that had watched many seasons pass. The inn's roof was made of weathered slate, its chimney sending up a thin ribbon of smoke that curled into the evening air. The windows glowed with a soft golden light, never harsh or bright, but gentle, as if the light had learned how to whisper. People who stayed at Rosehill Inn often said that time behaved differently there. It did not rush, it did not tug, it unfolded slowly, like a story told by someone with all the hours they might ever need, with room for pauses and silence and the sound of wind moving through roses. Behind the front desk, in a small alcove with shelves of carefully labeled keys, worked the innkeeper, Mira. Mira had grown up within these walls, the adopted daughter of the previous owners. She knew the inn the way some people know a beloved book. She knew which stair creaked softly and which one stayed silent, which window liked to catch the moonlight, and how the wind sounded in each corner of the building. The inn had many rooms, each with its own small charm, a slanted window, a patch of sunlight, a faint scent of lavender. But there was one room that Mira had always been quietly curious about, a room that was rarely used and often left alone. Room 397. It waited at the very end of the top floor corridor, tucked under the eaves where the ceiling dipped low. Its door was painted the same soft white as all the others, but the little metal numbers on it were worn smooth with time. When she was a child, Mira had thought the door looked as if it were holding its breath. Older guests sometimes glanced in the direction of that corridor and smiled in a way that seemed tinged with memory. When Mira asked her parents about the room, they would only say that it had seen a great many years and a great many hearts, and that one day she would understand. For a long time she left it at that. Years passed. Mira took over the inn with quiet competence. She placed fresh roses in a vase by the front door. She checked room keys before dusk, stirred soup in the kitchen, and listened kindly to the small stories guests offered her, the way people do when they feel safe for a while. One late summer evening, when the sky was brushed with pale gold and the roses outside were full and fragrant, the inn was nearly full. Travelers were settling into their rooms, easing weary shoulders and unpacking small cases. In the sitting room, someone tuned a guitar, the notes soft and hesitant. Mira finished her usual round of tasks and returned to the front desk. On the polished counter lay one key she did not remember placing there, a slightly heavier key, its brass darkened by years of use. The tag on it was faded, but the ink still showed clearly. 397. For a moment she simply looked at it. The long upper corridor seemed to stretch in her memory, the way it had when she was small. She thought of her parents' gentle, knowing smiles and of promises delayed until the right time. The inn was calm. The evening was unhurried. Outside, the roses rustled in the mild wind. Mira took the key in her hand. It felt cool, but somehow familiar, like the hand of an old friend. She climbed the main staircase, her palm grazing the smooth banister that had known so many other hands. On the top floor, the air was still and faintly scented with wood and old linen. Doors lined the corridor, each with its own quiet story inside. At the far end, beneath a small window, where the last light of day lingered, waited the door to room 397. Mira paused there, listening. The only sounds were the distant clink of dishes from the kitchen below and the soft sigh of wind at the window. She slid the key into the lock. The door opened with a gentle, relief-tinged sound, like a breath let out after being held for a long, patient time. Inside, the room was small and utterly peaceful. A bed with a simple patchwork quilt stood beneath the sloping ceiling. A wardrobe rested against one wall, its doors carved with vines that echoed the roses outside. Near the window, a writing desk waited, its surface worn smooth. Dust motes drifted in the mellow light. The air carried a faint scent of paper and roses. Mira stepped in and closed the door behind her. The quiet that settled around her did not feel empty. It felt expectant, like the stillness just before music begins. She walked to the desk and rested her fingertips on its edge. One of the drawers offered a small, stubborn resistance when she tried to open it, and then slid out with a soft sound. Inside lay a stack of letters, tied together with a faded ribbon the color of late evening. Mira's breath deepened. The letters had not been hidden so much as gently stored away, resting where they had always belonged. The paper was thick and cream-colored, edges slightly curled. The ribbon was worn, but it held firm. She sat on the edge of the bed, placed the bundle across her knees, and loosened the bow. The first letter began with a simple line. My dearest Elin. The handwriting was careful and looping, each letter shaped with quiet attention. The writer spoke of the inn as it had been long ago, when the roses were still finding their way up the walls, and the paint was new. They described a storm that had rattled the windows one night, and how, in the midst of the wild wind, it was Elin, the inn's owner, whose presence made the place feel steady and warm. The writer called her Elin of Rosehill, as if she were woven into the inn itself. The letter ended with a sentence that made the room feel even more hushed. Whenever the wind moves through the roses, I believe it carries my words to you. Mira rested the page on her lap. The words did not feel distant. They felt close, like a quiet voice speaking through time. She read another letter. The dates moved forward. The handwriting remained the same, but the tone deepened, like roots sinking more firmly into the earth. The writer told of journeys away from the inn, of seas with long, rolling swells, of foreign harbors, of strange constellations overhead. And still, no matter how far they traveled, the letters circled back to Rosehill Inn, to Elin standing at the front door with a rose in a small jar nearby. The letters did not shout. They did not tell of grand dramas or sharp sorrows. They lingered on simple things. Elin humming as she folded linens, the way she laughed with her whole face, the gentle creak of the stair near the top. They were filled with quiet fondness, soft as lamplight. Outside, evening thinned into night. The window of room 397 darkened, and the first star appeared above the hill. Mira lit the lamp on the desk, and its glow spilled kindly across the pages. Letter after letter unfolded a life of patient affection. One told of a winter evening when snow had fallen thickly over the town, cloaking the roses in white. Elin and the writer had walked together along the corridor, checking each guest's room, tucking in blankets, placing hot water bottles at cold feet. Later, when the inn was still, they had sat at this very desk, sharing a pot of tea and reading to each other by lamplight. In another letter, the writer described returning after a long absence. They wrote not of tears or dramatic embraces, but of the way Ellen had wordlessly taken their travel-worn hands in hers, as if smoothing out all the knots the journey had tied. Mira read slowly, letting the sweetness of each scene settle like snowflakes, landing one by one on a quiet landscape. As the inn moved through its nightly routines below, the room around her felt full of gentle company. It was as if Ellen and the unknown writer were still there somehow, not as ghosts to startle or disturb, but as a warm echo, a memory that had chosen to linger. At last, when her eyes began to grow tired, Mira gathered the letters into a neat pile again. She retied the ribbon, leaving it a little looser this time, as though acknowledging that their long sleep was gently ending. As she replaced the bundle in the drawer, she noticed something on the desk. A single pale petal, curved and fragile, resting in the lamplight. She did not remember seeing it when she entered the room. It might have been there for longer than she knew. It might have drifted from some invisible bouquet of memory. She smiled and left it where it was. After that night, Mira returned to room 397 again and again. Not every evening, and never in haste. Whenever the inn was quiet and the sky outside seemed especially deep, she would climb the stairs, unlock the door, and let the peaceful air of the room wrap around her. She read the letter slowly over many weeks, turning each page with careful fingers. She learned that the writer had first come to Rosehill Inn as a traveler passing through, intending to stay only one night. But something about the inn, the roses, the lamplight, the easy kindness of Elin had persuaded them to return. Again and again, journeys ended at the hill, and again, letters began here at the desk, written before the next voyage. As the letters moved forward in time, Elin's health began to waver. The writer's words became more deliberate then, as if each stroke of the pen were placed with extra care. They wrote of wanting to be near her as much as possible, to share the work at the inn, to sit with her in the quiet hours when guests were asleep and the world felt hushed. Even in those later pages, there was no sense of drama, only a deep, gentle acceptance. Love in those lines was not a fire, but a steady flame in a well-tended lamp. Near the end of the bundle, one letter surprised Mira. It was addressed not just to Elin, but also to anyone who might one day care for the inn. To Rosehill, and to whoever watches over her now. It began. In that letter, the writer described the inn as a living heart on the hill, a place that knew how to cradle joy and sorrow, together without dropping either. They wrote of the roses which would continue to climb and bloom long after names were forgotten. They asked very gently that whoever came after would keep Rosehill as a place where love in all its quiet forms could rest. Mira read that letter many times. Each time something in the inn seemed to answer. A board in the floor creaked in a familiar way. A distant door closed with a soft click. The air around her felt aware, as if the building itself were listening and nodding. She realized then that she was not only keeping rooms in order, she was keeping a promise. Late in the autumn that followed, when the roses outside had begun to lose their petals to the cooling wind, a new guest arrived. They came up the path slowly, carrying a small case and a worn notebook. Their shoulders looked tired, and there was a faraway look in their eyes, as though they were walking both through the evening air and through their own thoughts. Mira greeted them with her warm, steady smile and offered a room for the night. As she reached for a key, her hand moved toward the small drawer instead of the familiar hooks on the wall. Inside the drawer, the key to room 397 lay waiting. "Would you like a quiet room under the eaves?" she asked. "It has a view of the roses." The guest nodded. "That sounds exactly right," they said, as if something within them recognized the offer. That night in room 397, they set their notebook on the writing desk and placed their suitcase by the wardrobe. They sat on the bed for a time, listening to the subtle sounds of the inn, the sigh of pipes in the walls, a soft voice somewhere below, the creak of a door closing gently. The room seemed to hold them kindly, as if saying, "You may rest here." Without quite knowing why, the guest moved to the desk and opened the notebook. They did not know about the letters in the hidden drawer or about the life once written into these very shadows. Yet the room seemed to remember for them. Their pen rested on the page. At first, they did not know what to write, but slowly, words began to arrive. They started a letter. It had no address, at least not one written at the top. The guest wrote about the long months behind them, about a change they had not been sure how to bear, about someone they had cared for deeply and missed in a way that was both sharp and quiet. As the letter went on, the words softened. They wrote not of regret, but of gratitude for the time they had shared. They described small memories, a shared joke, a favorite song, the way sunlight had fallen across a table on a particular afternoon. The ink dried in gentle lines. When the guest finished, they felt as though a knot inside them had loosened, just a little. They folded the letter and tucked it under their pillow, not to hide it, but to give it a place close to where they would sleep. The inn held their rest with the same care it had given to Elin and the traveler long ago. Mira, downstairs at the front desk, felt a soft, calm move through the building. She glanced toward the ceiling, imagining the little room under the eaves, and smiled. She did not need to read the new letter to know that room 397 had done what it did best. It had given someone a quiet space to let their heart speak. Seasons continued to turn over the hill. In spring, new roses budded and opened, dotting the walls with blooms like soft lanterns. In summer, warm air slipped easily through open windows, carrying in the scent of sun-warmed petals. In autumn, leaves spun slowly to the ground, and the path to the inn rustled underfoot. In winter, snow rested along the roof and nestled in every hollow, while inside, fires burned low and steady. Guests came and went. Some stayed in room 397 for only a single night, others for several. Many of them, without ever speaking of it, found themselves drawn to the writing desk. Some wrote letters they would later send. Others wrote letters they would never show to anyone. A few wrote only a line or two, and then sat very still, listening to the quiet. Mira never opened the drawer to see if anyone left pages behind. She did not need to. She saw the way people's faces changed when they descended the stairs in the morning, the way their eyes looked a little clearer, the way their shoulders seemed to breathe more easily. The love letters of Rosehill Inn were no longer just the ones tied with ribbon. They were every page written in that room, every word that allowed a heart to soften, every silent acknowledgement that love, in some form, had lived. The inn gathered these unwritten and unwitnessed letters the way the roses gathered morning dew, holding them lightly, letting them shine for a moment, before releasing them back into the world. Now, as night deepens around the hill, Rosehill Inn grows quieter. The lamps in the hallways are dimmed one by one. The sitting room falls still, its chairs and cushions resting from the gentle weight of the day. The clock in the lobby ticks on, sure and soft. Outside, the roses are dark silhouettes against the sky. The town below glows with only a few scattered lights. Above everything, the stars watch with their patient, unwavering calm. Up under the eaves, room 397 waits in darkness, made friendly by the memory of so many peaceful nights. Imagine, if you wish, that you are there now, in a bed beneath a sloping ceiling, a quilt drawn lightly over you. The room is warm and still. Shadows lie softly in the corners. You can hear the faintest sounds of the inn resting, a distant pipe, the quiet click of the cooling roof, the almost inaudible shift of wood as the building settles around you like a gentle embrace. Each sound is simple and soothing, a quiet lullaby in the language of an old house. Your breath moves in and out in an easy rhythm, like the sea breathing against a faraway shore. With each inhale, you might imagine the delicate scent of roses, cool and sweet, arriving with the night air. With each exhale, you release another small piece of the day, letting it drift away, as if the hill itself were taking it from you and laying it gently to rest among the leaves. Thoughts may still wander through your mind. You can greet each one the way Mira greets her guests, kindly, without judgment, offering a brief moment of attention before letting it move on, deeper into the corridor of your dreams. You are safe here. You are held. The stories of Rosehill Inn continue around you, but you no longer need to follow them. The letters have been written. The pages can turn by themselves now without effort. You can imagine yourself as one more letter, gently placed in a drawer, carefully folded, deeply cherished, allowed to be still. The bed beneath you supports your weight completely. Muscles soften. The space between each breath grows a little wider and quieter. Your body grows heavier in the most pleasant way, like a stone resting on the riverbed, water flowing smoothly above. Outside, the roses sway in the faint wind, their leaves whispering sleepy secrets to the night. Inside, the darkness grows softer like velvet, like a warm blanket drawn a little higher. The inn keeps its slow, steady watch. The hill holds the inn. The sky holds the hill. And you are held within it all, in a circle of quiet care. There is nowhere you need to go now. Nothing you need to do. You can let go of the story. Let it drift outward like smoke rising from the chimney into the starry air until it thins and fades and leaves only calm. If dreams come, let them come gently. Let them unfurl like petals, like pages. You do not need to guide them. You can simply rest and let them pass through, knowing that you are safe in this moment. The love letters of Rosehill Inn, written and unwritten, surround you like a quilt of memories and kindness, warm and weightless all at once. Rest now, dear traveler. Sink into the softness. Let sleep rise to meet you, slow and tender as lamplight at dusk. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.